Okay, we need to talk about one of the worst things that's going on in Canada today. This is bad. This is the idea that to purchase a home in almost all of British Columbia, in almost all of southwestern Ontario, to purchase a home like a townhouse or a semi or a single family home, that you need, under normal circumstances, you need to have a family income of $242,000. What the fuck? That's crazy. That is so crazy. $242,000 to buy the average low-rise home in two areas that take up basically 50% of the population of Canada. But that's what it is. If you put 20% down on the average priced home as it stands today in those areas in Canada, which is slightly over $1 million, you put down 20% and you have to get an 80% mortgage, and the qualifying rate is 2% higher based on the stress test than the mortgage rate you're paying. Mortgage rate's probably somewhere just a tiny bit over 6% or just a tiny bit under 6%. So you're qualifying in it with a rate that starts with an 8%. Sweet Jesus. That's actually higher than mortgage. 8% is higher than mortgages were when this old tired body got a mortgage, like first mortgage I got. Like seriously, it's almost, it's higher. I think my mortgage rate was like a 7, okay? Oh, by the way, the mortgage was like $185,000. So yeah. Think about that for a minute. But anyway, it's all wrong. $242,000 of combined family income. That's nuts. It's wrong. It's criminal. It's a failure of our government. It's a failure of our society. Okay, so how do people buy houses these days? Well, first of all, either they're selling a house and reaping benefits of like a massive run up in cost, and they sold it for, now they got a big down payment. They sold it for big money. Now they got a big down payment. But what are the ways that a first timer could ever get into the market? Because obviously there's way not enough people making $242,000 a year. Okay, like that's just not available. So first timer into the market, they either need a spectacularly large gift from their parents, like spectacular, like I'm talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. Okay, hundreds and hundreds. Which, by the way, turns us into a feudal society. It turns us into a society where if your parent didn't buy a house 20 years ago, you don't get to have a house, all right? It's just like we went back to the Middle Ages of like lords and ladies who passed their estates down to their kids. Like, this is the wrongest thing you could ever imagine. That's a terrible thing. Oh, but wait, Ron, maybe we could get co-signers. We could get co-signers if we don't make enough money. Yeah, guess what? Who are your co-signers going to be? They're probably going to be your parents. Your parents are going to get old and die, okay? So how are we going to figure that one out? If they're on the mortgage for 10 years, how are we going to make that work? How is that ever going to happen? How is that not putting your parents in jeopardy? Isn't that putting you in jeopardy if something happens to your parents? Like, let's make it clear. Co-signers are not a good idea. They've never been a good idea. They shouldn't be a good idea, and they shouldn't be a requirement. That's just nuts, okay? Finally, and this might be the worst thing, do we want a city where the people who are already in the houses have to run a train in to have the people who look after them? Like think about this for a second. There's no nurses making $240. There's no lawn care people making $240. There's no cleaners making $240. There's nobody who fixes well, maybe some people who fix your house, but there's nobody who can actually look after you. There's no PSWs. There's no some person who can come to your home and help you when you're elderly. None of those people can come close to that. So what are you going to have them do? Take a train from a whole other part of the province to come and help you? It's a sickness if we have cities like these shining cities where only the ultra-rich live, and everybody else is either outside the city coming in to help, or they're in a tiny shoebox 3 or 4 to the shoebox apartment, to the little dog crate in the sky apartment who's renting, and they're there to help you. They're there to look after these rich people who are the only people who can afford to own a home in these big cities, okay? Like, it's all wrong. It's fundamentally bad for society, and it's just not right. So what's the answers? Answers on a different show. But understand the emergency. Understand how bad it is. Understand what's wrong with it. That's the first thing to understand. And then we're going to start to look at some of the solutions.